Hello, writers and crafters. I'm Valerie Isan, and this is episode 81 of the podcast. It is August 24th, 2022, as I record this. Today, the main topic is focus and productivity. Erick is not with us today because he's traveling with his family, so this will be a solo show. Haven't done one of those in, I don't know, like a year. No new patrons this week, but a big heartfelt jolly dance for existing patrons. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You mean the world to me. Thanks for believing in me and in the podcast. If you want to be a podcast patron, you can sponsor this podcast by going to patreon.com/Valerie Ihsan, IHSAN. For as low as $1 a month, you can get a shout out on the podcast. We can make announcements for you on the podcast. And at other tiers, the benefits do increase. There's free books, accountability Zoom calls, scene analysis, mastermind calls, and even free writer craft retreat tickets. That's going to be important in just a minute. Become a patron of the arts at patreon.com/Valerie Ihsan, IHSAN. I am still reading the Book of Form and Emptiness by Ruth Ozeki. I'm really enjoying it. It's super interesting the way the story is being told by the point of view of the book, which is kind of mind-blowing. My husband said that is not a new thing, that other books have done that, but this is the first time I've read it. So it kind of reminds me a little bit of The Book Thief, how the POV was death. In that book, that was mind-blowing to me too. I thought that was amazing. The Book of Form and Emptiness is what I'm reading right now. I'm also listening to The Mountains We Carry by Zaid Brifkani. And I actually narrated part of that book, so that's why I'm listening to it. It was one of my first attempts at narration, so it's a little bit amateur, but the story is really good and compelling. So I'm listening to it for the story because I only ever read my parts before when I was narrating. In my to be read pile, it's a little too early to start thinking about the next book because I'm only about halfway through the Book of Form and Emptiness. But Magic for Beginners by Kelly Link might be coming up. That's a book of short stories. How to Be a Good Creature by Sy Montgomery. That's a memoir. And A Prayer for the Crown Shy by Becky Chambers is fantasy. So those are all kind of closer to the top of my to be read pile. I don't know what will actually come to the surface when the Ruth Ozeki book is done, but just some thoughts. Okay, so announcements. I still wanted to put a plug out for Erick's new book, Chasing Shadows, which I bought. It's out now. You can buy it wherever you buy your books. Another announcement is Passion Planner is launching their new line of annual dated planners for 2023 tomorrow, August 25th at 9 a.m. Pacific time. That's when the launch starts. I already got mine picked out. I'm gonna, have my alarm set so that once it hits 9 o'clock, I can go over and buy the one that I want. I've been using my planner more and more to take the edge off my stress, playing with stickers and markers in my planner on a weekly basis really gives me that little wee bit of creative time each week that's separate from my writing and bookmaking time. So that's important to me. Okay, so Writer Craft Writing Retreat is scheduled for next summer. It's going to be August 24th to the 27th in 2023. The tickets are $900 this year and include all the lodging and the gourmet meals, plus instruction and coaching, retreat time by the river. It's in Marcola, Oregon. There are payment plans available and registration is going to open November 1st. Patrons receive a hefty discount and can buy early. You can buy right now if you're a patron. You can, of course, your monthly payments are going to be even less, the earlier you start making monthly payments. So you can go to valerieisan.com/retreat for more information. And if you do want to get your ticket early, there's only 9 left now because I've already opened it up for the alumni people. So if you want to buy early, then you can become a patron for $1 a month. And if you buy at a, excuse me, if you become a patron at a higher tier, then retreat tickets are included in your patronage. So go check out patreon.com/Valerie Isan and valerieisan.com/retreat for all that information. Okay, we're going to start talking about focus and productivity. Here's what I learned about accountability groups years ago. They're awesome. And here's why. I have some mutated Wonder Woman glitch in my brain that makes me volunteer for jobs or writing projects or helping friends out at a rate that would stagger a cheetah. And it always ends badly. I'm either stressed out so much that I start eating my weight in potato chips or chocolate bars or candy by the bag, or I'm crying, or I abandon everything and just jump ship and sleep, which is usually my sign that depression is looming, because overwhelm equals depression for me in my body, in my mind, my spirit. So I really need to keep on guard for the amount of projects that I take on all at once, which is difficult when my default setting is, well, how hard could it be? Or, really wanting to help out a fellow writer or something like that. So accountability groups. The biggest takeaway from the group I was in was this: if you have too much on your list, none of it gets done. That's it. That's the secret. When I remember hearing 3 things, that's all you can do. You get to get those 3 things done. And if you have time and energy left, great, you can do more, but you can only pick 3 things to focus on this week. And when I'd hear that, I would cry. In Barnes & Noble, Starbucks Cafe, I would cry because I could only choose 3 things to focus on. And I knew in my cells that I had like 87 other things to do. How could I just pick 3 things? I remember hearing, I think you should not put anything else on your plate until you finish selling your house. And I remember crying in Springfield's public house because I couldn't bear the thought of not working forward on my dreams while I did this other big, humongous thing, which was fixing up and selling my rental house. I hate being told that I need to prioritize. That word prioritize is kind of a naughty word in my my lexicon. I despise this perceived weakness in not being able to do it all, which of course is lunacy. You can't do it all. There is not physically enough energy in a body to do it all, and there is not enough actual time to fit things in. Things take a certain amount of time. There's 24 hours in a day. You got to sleep in there and eat in there, and there's other obligations you have. So it's just not possible to fit it all in. Sure, you can set a Pomodoro timer for 25 minutes and focus on that one thing at a time, but I can't do that 84 times. And I'm too scattered a lot of times, and I hope that doesn't make me sound flighty or anything. And I'm sure that other people get that scattered feeling too. So it's, it's never the quality, like deep work that Cal Newport talks about, or the one thing that Gary Keller writes about. And it's certainly not the way of essentialism that Greg McKeown talks about. Have you read this book? I have it here on I just finished it not too long ago. Essentialism by Greg, I'm going to say McKeown. I'm not sure how he pronounces it. Here's a little taste of it. I think it's super important. It was pretty mind-blowing for me to read. It was one of those big mirror books that made me look at myself. Okay, the difference between the way of the essentialist and the way of the non-essentialist, which is me over here, can be seen in the figure opposite. So for the podcast listeners, this is a picture of a circle, and that's your energy ball. And the non-essentialist has little arrows shooting off every which way, every direction, looks like little sunbeams just radiating out in all directions. And then the essentialist's little energy ball has one arrow sticking straight out, and it goes really far. The result is that we have the unfulfilling experience of making a millimeter of progress in a million directions. In the image on the right, the energy is given to fewer activities. The result is that by investing in fewer things, we have the satisfying experience of making significant progress in the things that matter most. The way of the essentialist rejects the idea that we can fit it all in, which was a big slap in the face to me. Instead, it requires us to grapple with real trade-offs and make tough decisions. In many cases, we can learn to make one-time decisions that make 1,000 future decisions so we don't exhaust ourselves asking the same questions again and again. The way of the essentialist means living by design, not by default. Instead of making choices reactively, the essentialist deliberately distinguishes the few vital from the trivial many, eliminates the non-essentials, and then removes obstacles so the essential things have clear, smooth passage. In other words, essentialism is a disciplined, systematic approach for determining where our highest point of contribution lies, then making execution of those things almost effortless. So that was really mind-boggling for me. The scattershot, spaghetti on the walls approach that I have always taken, do not get things done. And you're perpetually in putting out fires mode. And at the end of the day, you're exhausted, but answering your emails all day or fiddling with this or fiddling with that or doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that just isn't nearly as satisfying and productive as writing 500 words in your manuscript or building another page on your coaching and editing website. I have to choose one thing so that I can get the other things done. I know that sounds counterintuitive, totally. It even as I say it out loud, it totally sounds counterintuitive to me. But you know what else I do if left unchecked? Totally unrelated. Read 10 books at the same time. And I don't retain any of it. I never read long enough in one book to sink into the meaning or the message or the characters' lives. What happens now, thankfully, much less frequently, maybe once a year or whatever, is I force myself to pick up one book and finish it. And then I pick up the next one and read it. And then, the pile diminishes. And then I have the glory of picking out a brand new book and reading it in its entirety with no guilt, with no hurry up and get through this book because I have 3 others I'm halfway through that I need to get to. So it's like that with your author life too. We all have hopes and dreams and goals and projects and maybe even tasks and backlog. The coolest thing that happens when we focus on one thing at a time is getting to the end of the year and reviewing what you've accomplished. And I do that in my passion planner every year. I do a end of the year review. And, I remember one year I just ran around higgly-piggly, feeling way more stressed than normal. And I still managed to start this podcast way back in the day. And I started a Patreon page and I adopted a dog and I made important business decisions and I sold that house and I retired from my massage practice. I started a new job at the bookstore and I designed a signature coaching program that, one day I hope will fund my husband's retirement and our move to Costa Rica. All that to say that that's a big long list for someone that doesn't think they can get anything done. So focus is what did that. Even the little that I could scrape up in odd moments between, winter depression induced Netflix binges and my crazy non-essentialist attitude for life up until this point. So one other thing I wanted to mention was that when I focus, I really can prevent burnout. If I can pick 1 or 2 things that I can focus on for a month, still knowing there's 82 other things on my list that's taunting me. But if I can just finish those 1 or 2 things on them that I'm focusing on that month, then I can build self-confidence. my self-esteem grows. I start treating myself with compassion and respect, and that enables me and empowers me to do even more. I can give myself little pep talks like, yeah, I know you still have this big fat list over there, and I'll get to each and every one of you, but you need to wait in line just like everyone else here. And that is power. That is space to breathe without beating myself up. That is accomplishing what I set out to do. That is focusing and finishing something. And that is really magic for me because I do tend to be a little scattered unless I force myself to pick one thing at a time and do that. And that's why focus is so important to productivity. So that felt kind of like a little, I hope that was a pep talk and not a rant. I feel passionate about focus and productivity because I am scattered, and I do know what it's like to forget what I'm doing halfway through and have to look back at a list so that I can remember what I'm doing. And there's a lot of stuff, especially if you work from home, there's a lot of things that distract you. The dogs have done a bunch of distracting stuff during this podcast episode, for instance. And if I'm working from home, I know there's piles of laundry that I could be washing, and, the vacuuming needs to be done, and I need to water the lawn because it's, crisping up, and I need to weed this bed and change the sheets on my bed. And there's so much to do at home, and it is distracting. So having a plan for your focus really helps. It helps me anyway. So yeah, my regular practice now is just like I can have the to-do list, and I do. And every week I try to narrow that down and just focus on a few things for the week. And I pick one project that I'm working on per month. And usually I break those down into a smaller, actionable steps that I can then plug in as my to-do list for that week. So I hope you were able to get some ideas and, take something out of this solo show that resonated with you or inspired you to find that one essential thing that you can focus on this month. I'd love to know what it is. I'm working on my essential task for the rest of this year is getting my memoir published, and I'm on track. I finished editing the whole thing yesterday. I'm going to do another pass, just doing tweaks to it, and then I'll send it to my editor on October 1st. But I'm on track to send it in even earlier. So I'm really excited about that. But that's my essential thing that I'm working on. I'm not taking on any other big projects because I want to finish this book and have it published January 1st, 2023. So my one thing that I'm working on this month, well, actually this month is almost over. So for September, I haven't picked the new thing, but it will probably be book related. I am going to be doing some traveling. So I think probably it will just be getting the book completely tweaked and edited so that I can send it to the editor. That's going to be my one thing for September. So what is your one thing? I would love for you to leave a comment on the website or on the YouTube channel or in the Patreon comment section and tell me what your one thing is this month. All right. Happy writing. Stay focused. You can do this. And I'll see you next week. Bye for now.